Welcome to another episode of Hey Mama. So this episode is going to be a little bit different, where we're going to be interviewing each other. So I'm going to interview Pete first, and then the tables are going to turn and he's going to ask some questions about me. But essentially you're going to find out how we met, how we came together, and what it's like being essentially a powerhouse couple.
Yeah, fit fam.
Yeah, the fit fam, that's right. How we became the couple, and then how our family came about, and how we became a fit fam.
Our love story.
Yeah.
So this, it's about our love story.
So, Pete, walk me through how we met in your eyes and in your version of events, the sequence of events. Walk me through it. How did we meet?
So at the time I was working as a receptionist at a gym called Fitness Perfection in Dubbo. And up until that point, I had nothing to do with the fitness industry. I wanted a desk job, but the only job that I could get was a desk job in a gym. And through a series of conversations, I learned that the gym was up for sale. So oldest son goes to mum and her new partner and convinces them to go into buying this gym together.
I always thought this was so funny because she was, 20? 20,
yeah. So I had these grand plans of owning this gym and running this gym. So over a period of, I would say maybe 3 months, it felt like so much longer than 3 months, but it really was only a short period of time. I had started to learn about the business. The manager took me under his wing. His name was Ben. We got along like a house on fire. And the particular day that we met, we were actually up on the roofs looking at all the evaporative air cons for the gym. But if we just rewind a moment here, in the weeks leading up to meeting you, I had had a conversation with another staff member about how great it would be to have a pole fitness class inside of the gym. Again, grand plans. To bring pole fitness to Dubbo, or what I thought I was doing was doing that. Little did I know that at the time there was a pole fitness instructor that was bouncing around Dubbo.
Ex-pole fitness
Ex-fitness
instructor.
instructor.
Yeah, I wasn't a pole fitness instructor anymore.
Yeah.
But the person that you were talking to knew that I had done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was Andrew. And Andrew, he was a gymnastics coach at PCYC. He knew of me, and he mentioned to me that I know this fitness instructor that has skills in pole fitness. I said, great, can you put me in touch? So I gave him my number, and then later I found out that number had been passed on to me in a very unconventional way. You can hear about that in her version of events. But and it kind of went silent from there for a few weeks until, did you call me?
I called you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I called you, and then I think you had to call me back.
Yep. So I
you
put
were
on
very
my...
you were very just like, who is this, what do you want, kind of.
Yeah, so I put on my arrogant gym owner voice. You can just imagine the persona, and we end up teeing up a meeting, time for a meeting to come in, have a look at the gym and have a chat. So on that particular day, I was climbing all over the roof and looking at the evaporative aircon, which the aircon sucked in that gym was very well known. So we were walking around and So we were walking around the roof, and then I come down, and in the shift flow, what we needed to do was to start filling the fridge up for the day. So putting Coke and juice and all that into the fridge, because there was a swim school class coming through, and they obviously buy some of that sort of stuff afterwards. So I was in a black shirt and I was facing the Coke fridge, and Ben comes in and says, "There's someone here for you." Pretty sure that's how it happened. And then I turn around and I see this beautiful woman I think she's like this amazing star in this old shitty town. I don't live there anymore, so I can call it an old shitty town. Sorry for all my dubbo peeps that are listening. But I was 20. I moved from a city to a country town, and until that time, I hadn't met anyone that I was really interested in. And then this bombshell walks through, this blonde bombshell walks in with Lorna Jane on. You know, she was looked like she took care of herself, and I was like, wow. And that's when I started to get the sweats. That's when I started to stumble on my words. That arrogant gym persona that I had on the phone was completely gone. And I invited you to come into my office.
Was it even
which
really your office?
wasn't a space I occupied a lot, to be honest. I was mainly at the desk up until that point, but I invited you to come into the office, and that's where we had our first conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's
what you want to
my
start?
version of events, and that's where I'll stop.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So you tell me now your version of events of that story.
Okay, so I was a pole fitness instructor while I was pregnant with my first child, Amira, and I did that all the way up. I was always been interested in fitness. You guys know that from the previous podcast. And I finally found somewhere that I belonged in Dubbo, and I did pole fitness. And then the owner asked me to become an instructor. So I was like, yeah, wow, I'm finally in somewhere where I belong and that I loved doing. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll come on board. And I found out I was pregnant very quickly after becoming an instructor. And my doctor gave it all okay. Fast forward that journey, I decided to also I wanted to know more about the human anatomy and why we were doing these particular exercises, and I wanted to know more than just teaching someone how to do pole tricks. So I began my Cert 3 and Cert 4 after I had Amira, and 8 months after I had Amira, I decided to quit pole, and I was kind of burnt. So you say you were burnt from the fitness industry. I was burnt from that particular experience from that, right? So I was not even interested in ever getting back into pole fitness itself. I was a little bit guarded and all that kind of thing. And Andrew was saying to me, Amira was doing kindy gym, so he was saying, oh, my mate is going to buy the gym. He's looking for a pole fitness instructor. Give him a call. And I thought, I really want to do this. I'd rather maybe give him some classes that I could do. In the meantime as well, I'd also done a boxing certification as well. So I was like, well, if I don't bring in the pole fitness, I'm not really into it. But if I don't bring that in, I can actually bring in some experience of some of boxing classes, right? Oh, and belly dancing as well.
Yeah.
You are all going to think, far out, what this woman never sits still. And with a little toddler, right? Amira wasn't even 2 yet. And so I just gave you a call, even though I was umming and ahhing, and I was like, oh, do I really want to do this? Okay, I'll go in there and I might try and do some classes for experience and get some extra money. And I was training friends of mine in the park anyway, or in my house. And so I gave you a call, and yes, you sounded like an old man on the phone. This old man that was going to buy the gym.
How old did you
and
think
he
I was?
What, at the time?
Yeah,
before I saw you?
Yes.
Oh yeah, like an older man, I don't know, like 40s. 40s or something.
Yeah.
I was thinking that's who I was talking to. Some old man that was kind of like, what do you want? What are you calling me for? And once I mentioned what I was about the pole fitness, the tune changed. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's arrange for you to come in and all that kind of thing. So it's one of those things that happens to me a lot in life, where I'm taking action and I don't even know why I'm taking action and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, but I'm being led down a path for some reason, and I've always been a person of, okay, let's just see what happens. If I do this, let's just see what happens and walk the path. So we arranged for me to come in, and I had Amira babysat, and I was just coming in for a little interview or walk around at the gym. And I thought, well, a gym, I don't need to really wear corporate wear. I could just rock up in my active wear that I loved to show off. So I walked in and asked Ben to speak to Pete Brown. That's who I was here to talk, and he said, oh, it's him over there. And then we were filling up the drink bottles. And if I can be extremely honest, I haven't ever had a spark like that before. You know, that instant, like, you know, I saw you from the back, triceps, traps, all that kind of thing, and I was like, oh wow, the energy as well, the energy between us was huge.
Yeah.
And I was taken aback by that, and your big smile on your face showed me that you were very happy to see me as well. And that's I was like, oh, this kind of feeling is neutral, or it could just be okay. And I always talk myself out of those sort of things, like, oh, he's probably just excited that that someone's going to come on board and teach these classes.
Yeah.
So I always do that to myself as well. And the attraction was so severely there that I started to get all flustered in myself, not even realizing that you were sweating. You didn't tell me that until way later on down the track. But I could feel myself blushing.
Yeah, see, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, well, it was definitely, I was like, what is happening?
Yep.
That's what I was like, what is happening here?
Yep.
So we had the interview, and I was this boppy little thing that you were like, oh, and you were still quite arrogant, because you said, what do you think of Les Mills? And I was like, oh, I love it, you know, so excited and passionate about things. And then you were like, oh, I don't like it, I want to get rid of it. And I was like, okay.
Very
no worries.
opinionated.
Yeah, very opinionated. Yeah, you've calmed down a lot since then. However, so we did that interview, and basically walked away with you saying, come in and do some classes. I talked about the belly dancing, I talked about the boxing. You said that there was a butts, abs and thighs class to fill. So I was like, I walked out of there going, oh, okay, I could like make
tummy, bum, thighs,
can make up some stuff about that. And I think you guys threw me into aqua aerobics, the first ever fitness class I taught. What you guys threw, because nobody wanted to do that. And so you threw me into the aqua aerobics class. This old woman stormed out of the class and came and complained to you, saying that I was going too fast or I was doing whatever. And I was just faking it. No idea. I've never taught a class like that before. It's always just with pole fitness and mucking around. We were basically. We weren't even friends then either, I wouldn't say. Right. It was like an awkwardness every time we saw each other in the gym, but we knew we liked and respected each other. And you were trying to own this gym, but at the same time, as I was coming in, you were sort of basically on the outer as well.
Yeah, so I remember you being down in the TBT class, and I was talking to Luke, and Luke was giving me the nudge, and I was like, oh no, I was so into you. I was so into you, but he had told me you were actually married, and I was like, oh.
And I told you in the interview as well that I was a mum.
Yeah, you told me you were a mum. I suppose it didn't click then that you were unavailable, but it definitely clicked that you were, well, it didn't click, but it was told to me that you were unavailable at the time. So I was like, oh man, maybe this is just going to be a really good friendship. And then,
but even at the beginning, I didn't even feel like it was going to be. I was sort of like, oh, okay, this guy is a bit weird and a bit arrogant. That I did think I didn't know where I stood with you, because you were so hot and cold. Very hot and cold, and maybe it makes sense now because you were told that you were into me, but you were told that I was married. So that's why you were so hot and cold.
But there was also the hot and cold of going home, and at that time, I was going home and talking about the potential of owning this gym, and that's where the cracks started to really show. Like, the reason I was up on the roof was because I wanted to look at the aircon system, and to replace that, first was impossible, but the second was just an exorbitant amount of money.
That wasn't working out.
The place wasn't working out. Purchase wasn't working out.
Yeah, so you were all up in your
So yeah.
Yeah, and I do remember you having to like come in and replace fitness instructors on a Saturday morning. You were working mornings and nights and all that kind of thing. So that hot and cold thing, I think, came from that as well. You were stressed.
I've never been good with no sleep. So I was getting up early and coming in and doing early shifts. So
and then late shifts and like the personal training lifestyle kind of thing, like over the top.
Yeah.
Working for it because you had to replace everybody else when shit hit the fan.
Yep.
So yeah, for me it was a very hot and cold kind of feel, and again for me as well, I was like that whole moment, and I thought you were very attractive, and there was this massive energy towards between us. We were vibing. We were really vibing that when we met. Yeah. However, I also thought, I could learn a lot from this guy. Yeah. It's you had so much experience. You looked like you knew, and you talked, and you presented yourself like you knew your stuff. So I thought, bottom line here is that I could really learn from you. Yeah. And so that's what I was drawn to that as well.
I loved that. Like I loved how keen you were to learn from me. That was something that I found as a really, really attractive trait. Mm-hmm. So when did we catch up the first time outside the gym?
So the funny thing was you left. Yeah, so you left. You left, and I was like, it's really disappointing. And I actually friend requested you on Facebook. Yep. Because I was like, I said that to you. I've learned that you left. Yeah. And I kind of felt that, like I get that abandonment thing, like, that was nothing. That was nothing to him. Like our friendship or our vibe or whatever it was nothing.
Meant nothing.
Yeah, it was like all in my head kind of thing. So I was the one that reached out to you because I was like, I'm not ready to not learn from this dude and see what pans out. And so you responded. We had a bit of a chat, and I think it was about maybe business. It was about you because you were
Juice Plus thing.
No, not Juice Plus. That was like down the track. But at first you were saying, I'm looking for somewhere to open up my own personal training studio. You're training at the park. You're training people at the park and stuff. So
that was the first time we went outside of the gym, wasn't it? To look at the
yes. So I think that was the space. Yeah, we had a coffee catch up, and then you said, okay, maybe we had a coffee catch up before we looked at the space or after. Yeah. So there was two kind of encounters.
So I left this gym and I decided to start PTing again. I'd managed to use a bit of information I got from the certification that I did, MP, a piece of paper, and I managed to get about 3 or 4 clients, and I was training them at the park. This was the first offer that I gave out to people for what would end up being physique, really. And I remember middle of June, which is freezing cold, training. I was training her, I was training another one, Kath, and then there was like 3 that I was training, and they were getting uncomfortable being in the cold. So I was like, I really need a space, and that's when
you wanted a partner as well. Like you wanted a partner. You seemed like you wanted a partner to go into business with, and I was also thinking that maybe I open up my own fitness studio or wellness studio that I've talked about for such a long time, and I had friends that were willing to invest in me, and I'd had meetings with them, and then you kind of came along at the same time, and
which I had no idea you had investors.
Yes, I had investors. Yeah, I did. Like about 3 of them actually. And it was a bit over my head as well. So then it seemed to be the best idea to go in with you, but for some reason that sort of faded away because you ended up at Anytime Fitness. I remember meeting up for runs and stuff, and you said, I've got a job at being a PT at Anytime Fitness. And I was just sticking it out and became a PT. I became one of the most popular PTs at Fitness Perfection. I was like kind of, being a bit of a top dog there, learning with you. At other times, you were teaching me how to squat. You were teaching me when you got into Anytime Fitness. Yeah. All that kind of thing. So shall we fast forward all of that info? And long story short, things didn't work out with me and my husband, the father of my child, the father of Amira. They weren't working out. We separated, and you were in Anytime Fitness, and we were still really good friends. Yeah. We had to have a break for a little while.
Yeah. So we tried to keep it French the entire time, and we trying to fast forward and have coffee. I trained you as a PT client.
Yes, I was a client of yours. I was learning.
Yeah, like we had regular touch points. I would go out and you would be out with girls, so we'd say hi to each other. And
there were even times where you knew who I knew, and so we were all out together. Yeah.
So we had a lot of instances where that initial spark kind of carried on, and ultimately it came to a head, and we both expressed to each other that, because I had no idea that you had even thought of me in a romantic way. I think it's because that's sort of the same for me. Like when I told you that I was in you, what did you like? Did you know that I was? Or?
Sometimes, like I said, the hot and cold thing.
Yeah,
very much hot and cold kind of person.
Yeah,
I thought you were.
I thought so extremely guarded.
Yeah, maybe it was guarded. Yeah,
extremely guarded. I didn't want to wear my emotions and show them.
Yeah.
And if you listen to my background in the last chat, the first episode of this season, probably kind of get an idea of maybe why I was like that, vice versa. But yes,
I talked about my marriage in the podcast as well, and how what happened there. So if you haven't watched that, to make sense of this, you need to watch that or listen to that.
That was episode 3. So in episode 5, we're fast forwarding all of that. We've had a break from each other.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It was a really hard thing to do. Yeah, but we wanted, especially we wanted to be sensible about things and say, you do you, and you do. I had lots of stuff to work out myself emotionally. I became a single mum. I was still doing my career and all that kind of thing, and you needed to do it.
And then we came together on New Year's.
Yeah, so after some time had fallen, and I was getting on with my life, and you were going for a visit back to Adelaide and all that kind of thing. We got, like I said, a bunch of us are all going down to Sydney. Why don't you join? And purely platonic friendship, all that kind of thing. Yeah. And
there's a picture of us where I'm just like biting my lip, looking at my shoes, a really serious look on my face, and
it is so weird.
You were just
such a weirdo.
In the photo.
It's like, I'm just being me here. I'm just doing me. And having a good time, but you are the type of person you are so in your head.
Yeah.
So we talk about that hot and cold thing, like even when you were in your head about the business, about the gym, that's why I was getting the whole hot and cold, and I really feel people's vibes and energies. So I'm like, but I also can't work out what the hell it is.
So I struggle making decisions, and this is something I'm learning about myself very
recently.
Recent. I do struggle making decisions. I'm not a quick decision maker.
And like I just talked about before early on, I'm a person that just goes along and takes these steps of actions, and I have no idea why I'm even doing it.
Yeah. And I feel that. I feel the being on the edge of the cliff, and I'm kind of like, whoa. I feel it, and I'm drawn to it, but it takes a long time for me to process it. I have to go through all of the possible scenarios that could play out if this decision was made, and have to calculate all that.
And I'm like, calm down, dude. Chill.
Yeah. So on that night, I felt as though I I felt as though I wanted to kiss you, and that didn't pan out
Too well.
too well, did it?
Yeah. Well, so I didn't know. I had no idea that was a plan or anything that was going on in your head. I was just like, woo! I was a woo girl. You know, we talk about How I Met Your Mother. I was a woo girl. So I was just having a good time. I had no idea until that moment of the New Year's kiss. And I think you must have put so much pressure on the actual kiss that it wasn't great.
No.
Yeah. And then you were all weird, and then you had to speak to my friend. My friend just told you, like, calm down, relax. Like, she's out here, she's just having a good time, having fun. Yeah, but I think you put a lot of pressure on the kiss.
Yeah. Yeah, what did I say?
Oh, so when, like, after I heard that you were all, like, you know, in your head stressing out and stuff to my friend, I said I'll go back with him in the car by ourselves so I can just tell him to, like, chill out. This is not a big deal. So then when we were talking in the car, you said that it felt like kissing a friend.
Yep.
So for me, I was like, okay, cool.
Yep.
It felt like kissing a friend. It wasn't the greatest. If that's what it is, that's what it is. Like, I was happy to have your friendship as well. So then we can go a step further and talk about
let's hear the listen.
I don't know. They want to hear all of the detail.
Do you want to hear the juicy stories?
Oh yeah, I love to hear the
juicy
stories. So I drove him all the way home, dropped him off at his parents' place, and he went to kiss me on the lips goodbye, and I was like, this. And
I was like, okay, so she's okay being friends. I'm gonna lose her.
So me telling you to chill out and everything's cool and everything's fine, and if that's the way you feel, that we're just friends, that's fine. I'm doing my life, and then when you went to kiss me on the lips to say goodbye, I was like, we're friends. Yeah. We can go cheek to cheek. Yeah. So what was your feeling after I kissed you on the cheek?
It was a huge feeling of loss, massive, and I've always been like that. Like, when it feels like there's an equal level of attraction, I kind of just withdraw, and then if I start to lose that, it's a power play. It's a
game playing.
And at that moment in time, I just blew my shot. I blew my shot with the woman who I used to stand in the kitchen with my mum and say that was my wife in another life. So the next month was about trying to get that back.
Yeah, and I felt that, like, all of a sudden you were messaging me, hi, how's your day? Yeah. Messaging me about random stuff and all this kind of thing, and I was like, this is weird, but I'll just go with it. Yeah, this is cool. Like, I was at the gym and I would be working, and then I'd get these cute little texts from you, like, how was your day, and all of that, and then you made up an excuse to
come around
for me to sign your passport. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when, was that when we kissed again? No, not that time. That was another time.
Oh no, that was the time that we did, and I put the wall up again, but I realised that I was still very much attracted to you.
But it was a very good kiss that time.
It was a very nice kiss. Yeah, it was, and that's what I mean. Like, I realised, I'm still like, there's still feelings there. There's still an attraction there. So
yeah. And I've never been good around crowds. I'm very antisocial. So I think being in a more comfortable environment at your house and you were available was kind of like, all right, like, it's now, do or die now. It's go for it or not. Like, you have to make a decision here. Yeah, that was when I made the decision that this is all for me.
Yeah. And it's funny that you, I couldn't work that out back then, that you were uncomfortable in crowds. And it's not until we've had a child together and Logie is, she's good now, but for a long time she didn't work well in crowds.
Yep.
And so I never understood it. And I've never been a person that's been understanding of shy people. Or I've always been like poking the bear and stuff like, what's wrong with you? You're so quiet and uncomfortable, and I never really figured out that it was because you were uncomfortable in crowds. Or that maybe it's overstimulation of energies.
I just think about what everyone else is thinking, and I think about how I'm perceived, and there's just a whole lot of stuff that goes through my head. So when you see me confident on camera, it's because I've got control of the environment. It's the only reason.
And you felt like you weren't in control. With the whole New Year's thing, with the friends around. And I can understand that now, because you weren't as close to all of them as I was. But then I also thought, why did you come? Like, that's what I was thinking. Too. Like, if you didn't like this and you didn't want to be here, why did you come?
Just spend more time with you.
So now I see that.
It was to spend to obviously get an opportunity to spend more time with you. And having you now available was
a different story.
It was a different story, So
when we got together, we'll share that our motto is let's just do it and see what happens. Because there was that gameplay, and there was that cat and mouse, there was that you were hot and cold, and then I was just like, okay, whatever, and then you were like, oh, but hang on, because you so it was this game playing, and I was really like, okay, let's just remain friends, like let's just keep it cool. And then we progressed, and I was like, you know what, let's just do it, let's see what happens.
So I came over for a movie.
But that has remained our motto for 10 years, being together, 10 years of going, all right, let's take a leap of faith of this, let's do business together, let's work together. So we ended up working together after that too, and I didn't want to mix. For a while there, you were like, come work with me, come be my trainer, or blah 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 at Anytime Fitness, and I said I don't want to mix like personal with professional and all that kind of thing. But again, the universe just kept pushing me forward until I got fired for dating you.
Off the back of me coming in to
and also sending me flowers.
Gym that had so I kind of forced you into that, which has been a contentious area for our relationship as well along the way that I did that, but I think that was a territorial play that I did, and again it comes back down to my maturity level and
you were 21, nearly 22, very young.
And I did. I wanted all of you or none of you.
You are
so I
very
wanted you,
possessive.
I wanted you as I saw us as, what I saw? I saw us as being the dynamic duo, that power couple that I never had as a kid. I didn't look at my parents and see connectedness and common goals and shared values. I saw, and it's an epiphany that I'm having right now. It's probably why I was so driven to do irrational stuff early on in our relationship, is because of that irrational need for stability in my romantic relationship with my family as an adult, because I just didn't have that as a kid.
For me, my past, I had a lot of fear around that, around jumping into something, around...
That didn't work.
What if we went in on being professionals together? What if we didn't work out? All of that kind of thing. I had to get there in my own time, even though I knew, something was telling me that the time at that gym, I'd been like over 12 months or whatever, the time had passed.
Yep.
And something else was happening. I just didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
And I was trying to put the blocks, saying that, you know, no, I'm not going to come and work for you. We're going to keep this professional and personal separate, and things like that. So then I got fired for dating you, because it was basically dating the enemy or sleeping with the enemy.
Yeah, so I've seen
That's
all
how
the
they
books,
thought of
I
it.
knew their insides and outsides.
Yeah, so even then, even after being fired, and you're like, I'll give you a job, you know, you'll do this. And I was like, no. I need to be independent. I need to not rely on a man.
Yep.
And I need to not rely on somebody else to come and save me.
Mm.
I didn't want that knight in shining armor anymore. But then, things sort of
Fell into place.
fell into place. Yeah.
An RSPCA day came up where I was asked to go and volunteer in Oz in Europe, so I couldn't do it. So you went and did that for me.
Yes, I went and did that, and I thought, oh, this is okay. I didn't even know how I even did that. What the hell? I did some cooking demonstration for you as well out of
I gave you the
cookbook.
recipe. And
Gave me the recipe, and I just
cook this.
and I think I even had a mirror down there, and we took the dogs through a warm up and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
Anyway, and I thought, oh, this is something I really enjoyed doing. Maybe I could do this. And then I ended up working with you at Anytime Fitness.
My
And-
trainer at the time left,
Yeah.
and I was still over in Europe, so you had to cover.
I did have to cover some.
Big class.
Yeah, she went MIA, so I had to cover that, and I did that for you because I loved and cared about you. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm here. I've taken the action, and it wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
And so then you take the next action, you go, oh, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
And then we had the dream of owning our own studio.
Yeah.
And should we cut it there?
Yeah, I think we'll cut it there. We'll cut it there and talk about that in the next episode, because that's really, like, now we've come together. We had a lot of obstacles to overcome.
Yeah, a lot of hurdles.
Because there were meshing of different lives. I was a single, young, obsessed bodybuilder coming into a house with a single mum and a 3-year-old. So there was a lot of stuff that we had to work through, and I think what you're probably going to get from the next episode is just how growth oriented we both are in our mindsets.
Because it's never been smooth sailing with us. It's bomb explosion after explosion. And
And even though it looks like, you know, we're the perfect couple on the outside looking in, I don't feel like there is anyone that's perfect for each other. I think, in my experience, it's about finding someone that you're willing to go through the hardship with, do the work with, and actually still like them at the end of that process, and willing to go through that
like
cycle
them and
over
not
and
like
over
them
again.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Still have that love for them, but not liking them. And that happens a lot. That happens a lot with me and you. And I'm like, man, I still like you. So there is something that is drawn, like that draws us back together, but it has not, from year after year after year. It's always been something. So I think the next episode is more about the business, and then little logs coming along, and all of that coming together, and how we built this core awesome foursome. I want to call it.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Mama. You can find all the relevant links, including socials, in the description section of this podcast. If you want to find out more information about how I can help you build your best body after baby, then visit my website, www.thefitmummethod.com, for more info. Lastly, before you leave here today, if you've enjoyed listening, then please subscribe and share so you can help me to reach out to those mamas that also need to listen too.